"Let there be light," and there was light. Genesis chapter 1.
If we apply the knowledge of the Mesopotamian text to the biblical text, the correct reading of the book of Genesis emerges especially with regard to waters.
And Elohim said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And Elohim made the firmament, dividing the waters which are under the firmament from the waters which are above the firmament. And Elohim called the firmament heaven.
Upper waters, lower waters. What did the Bible mean by that? What has modern science discovered?
The Sumerians described Uranus and Neptune as watery planets.
In 1979, 1980 and 1981, the Pioneer and Voyager spacecraft visited Jupiter, Saturn and their many moons, and found water everywhere, as ice on the surface and as water below the surface.
There was water on Io, a moon of Jupiter, and on Jupiter's moon Europa, on Saturn's moon Enceladus, and its moon Tethys, and in the magnificent rings of Saturn. Modern science has confirmed the ancient assertion to the full. There indeed have also been waters above the firmament.
A most spectacular corroboration of the presence of waters above came with the return of Halley's Comet to our vicinity in 1986. Water loss at 30 tons a second increases enormously. 70 tons a second.
Don't worry, it has enough water left to last thousands of more orbits.
The core, half the size of Manhattan Island, contains melted ice. 4 billion years old, 90 million miles away from the Sun. Halley's Comet has been visiting us roughly every 76 years. Was it known even in antiquity?
The unusual celestial object, reported in Babylonian texts to have been seen in the year 164 BC, is believed to have been Halley's Comet. Significantly, it was considered the scepter star of Israel.
I see it, though not now. I behold it, though it is not near. A star of Jacob did course. A scepter of Israel did arise. Numbers 24:17.
Halley's Comet and its likes are truly the messengers of Genesis.
And what about waters below the firmament? Data obtained by unmanned spacecraft in the 1970s, and again in 1990 and 1991, reveal that Venus may have had seas, lakes and rivers in the past. Even Mercury, so close to the Sun, had an icy past, and still has water ice at its poles. When the Italian astronomer Schiaparelli announced last century that he had seen canals on Mars, he was disbelieved. So was the American astronomer Lowell in 1916. But the unmanned spacecraft sent to Mars by NASA found evidence of ample water in that planet's past.
We are forced to no other conclusion but that we are seeing the effects of water on Mars. Mars once had enough water to form a layer several meters deep over the whole surface of the planet. So, what had started out as a dry and barren planet has emerged in the past decade as a planet where water was once abundant. Mars has joined Venus and Earth in corroborating the Sumerian concept of water below the firmament.
Annunaki, Elohim, Enuma Elish, Genesis. Of all the mysteries confronting mankind's quest for knowledge, the greatest is the mystery called life. The Sumerians asserted that the seed of life was brought to Earth from space by Nibiru. Were they right? Life on Earth began when stray comets carrying the building blocks of life crashed into the primitive Earth. Scientists find evidence for this in meteors falling to Earth.
What we are trying to find out in the meteorites is to see whether there are any of these molecules related to life. There are certain molecules like the amino acids which may be described as the building blocks of life. What does that imply is that all those events that led to life may be common in the universe.
Directed panspermia is reviving the notion of seeding the Earth with the first organisms or spores from an extraterrestrial source. Not, however, by chance, but as a deliberate activity by an extraterrestrial society. 3.8 billion years ago, a primordial gene might have appeared whose message was the biblical injunction, "Go out into the world, be fruitful and multiply." This would be possible only in the case of extraterrestrial origin.
Thus did evolution begin.
As we read in the Bible, it was only after all the fishes of the sea, and all the fowl that fly the skies, and all the animals that fill the earth, and all the creeping things that crawl upon the earth, it was only then that Elohim created the Adam. We are not the oldest story of evolution, only its last few pages.
Let's get back to the Sumerians' oldest writings. We read that their creators were the Annunaki, the people who had come to Earth from Nibiru. In advance of their landing on Earth 445,000 years ago, they sent their robots to scout the unknown planet. "150,000 years later, the Annunaki created man. They made us Earthlings to mine in Africa the gold they needed to save their home planet's dwindling atmosphere.
How was the Adam created? According to the Sumerians, it was by genetic engineering, a fertilization in vitro in glass tubes, as depicted in this rendering on a cylinder seal.
Adam was the first test tube baby.
Let us make the Adam in our image and likeness. Genesis 1:26.
They made us in their image. Therefore, they are like us. They have a far developed space technology. Nibiru comes into our vicinity every 3,600 years, and then they revisit us. Every time they give us opportunities for a sudden technological jump, for better medicine, for a greater science, for a better agriculture, as they have already done in our recent and ancient past. According to the Bible, the Babylonians once tried to reach their gods in heaven, the Anunnaki, by building the Tower of Babel. Today, we would call it a launch tower. What was the target of that endeavour? According to Zacharia Sitchin, it was Mars, our neighbour planet. The 12 members of our solar system were identified in Mesopotamia by specific symbols. Some, as for Mars, Earth and Venus, indicated their position numerically, as on this ancient stela.
We see the sun with its many rays. We see the symbols standing for 4 of them in the bottom row. We see another 4 depicted standing on their cult animals, but really it's a symbolism connected with the zodiac. We